Recently, I was able to show a couple a tax strategy that could reduce the amount of taxes they paid in retirement by over $100,000, but more importantly, would allow them to leave over $1 million more dollars to their kids. So today, we'll go over a case study showing why it made sense to do this tax strategy and also what their plan would look like if they didn't implement the tax strategy. And by the way, my name is Ryan. I own Denali Financial Group, and we help those of you that are close to retirement or in retirement. And at the end of this video, we're gonna have a quiz that you can take. We call it the How Much Do I Need to Retire quiz, and it'll simply walk you through some questions that'll give you an idea of how much money you may need to be successful in retirement. But okay, so let's jump into the case study. So I'm gonna get real creative with names here, and we're gonna call them Bob and Mary, and they are both 65 years old. They have $1.5 million saved for retirement, which is great, but all of it is in a tax-deferred retirement account, aka they still have to pay taxes on it. And Bob was one of the lucky ones that still gets a pension. They're becoming more and more rare these days, but he worked for a big company here in Kansas that provided a pension, and it was going to give Bob and Mary $36,000 a year in income. So where I always like to start when building out a plan is determining what their overall income looks like compared to what their expense needs are going to be in retirement. So if we look at Bob and Mary's situation here, you're seeing that Bob is getting $30,000 in Social Security per year, Mary's getting $20,000 in Social Security, and then the pension I mentioned is paying them $36,000 per year. They also want to spend $100,000. They live in a pretty low cost of living area. They live a fairly simple life. They wanted to take some vacations. We included that into this plan, but overall, they wanted to spend $100,000. So right off the bat, when I'm looking at their cash flow coming in versus expenses, I knew their plan was in pretty good shape. They would be taking less than 4% out of their portfolio, and their money was going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And here's what their plan would look like if they just didn't do any tax planning. It looks pretty good if you're looking at it from a high level. That bar keeps going up, that looks good. But the main reason Bob had come to see me that day was not to determine if he would have enough money for retirement. He felt good about that. The real reason was he had recently just met with a former coworker who was 8 years older than him. And that coworker was hitting the age where he was going to start to have to take out required minimum distributions, right? And what that means is it's basically when Uncle Sam comes and says, hey, I don't care if you need this money or not, we're going to require you to take out a percentage per year, pay taxes on it. We're going to require you to do that the rest of your life because Uncle Sam wants to make sure he collects his taxes before you pass away. So this coworker was telling Bob how it had substantially increased his tax bill and would continue to do that for the rest of his life. And it was a major headache for him, and he had wished he had planned ahead. And Bob had never thought about this either, right? He had an advisor. This advisor had done well. They helped him with investments, but they didn't help him with the actual tax planning side of retirement. So that was Bob's biggest concern. And the first thing you'll notice is their tax bill over time just continues to increase for the remainder of their retirement, right? And that's pretty common, something that I see a lot with folks we work with. And to me, my goal is to always reduce that. How can we find a way to have those bars going the opposite direction where you're spending less taxes over time? And the reason I feel that way is because I always ask clients, or when I'm giving a presentation, I always ask, does anyone in here think tax rates are going down in the future? And not a lot of times are people passionately saying, yes, I think tax rates are going down. So here's what I wanted to look at with Bob and Mary. Instead of waiting until that RMD age, required minimum distribution age that his coworker was talking about, and paying less taxes early in retirement and then just slowly paying more and more, what if we planned ahead? What if we paid more early so that we could pay less for a longer period of time in retirement? And the way we plan ahead for this is what's called a Roth conversion. And by the way, a Roth conversion is where you just take money that is sitting in this traditional tax-deferred retirement account like we were talking about, and you convert the money over to a Roth IRA, right? And a Roth IRA, the money's now been taxed because when you convert it, you have to pay tax on it. But it's now sitting in this Roth and it's growing tax-free. And when you pull the money out, it's coming out tax-free. And when you leave it to your kids, they're also getting to take it out tax-free. So every time I talk about a Roth, people say, sign me up. I'd like all my money over there. Now, do Bob and Mary want to take all $1.5 million and convert it over to a Roth in one single year? Probably not. Absolutely not would be my answer, right? It's going to create a bigger headache than they had in the first place. So instead, we like to do what's called an incremental Roth conversion, where instead of doing it all in 1 or 2 years, we may spread that out over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 years, right? We're doing smaller conversions over time to see the type of impact that can have. So for Bob and Mary, I jumped right in and I first wanted to see what would it look like if we just filled up the current tax bracket they were already in and converted that money. And what you'll see is if we were filling up the 12% in 2024 and 2025, and then eventually when it turns into the 15, yes, we'd be converting money. Yes, we'd be saving a little bit on taxes. But since they were already so close to filling that up anyways, the tax planning, the Roth conversions really didn't have a big enough impact. And in doing that strategy, they were still going to be in the 25% tax bracket for the rest of their lives, pretty much, which I didn't love. So I wanted to see what other options there were. Then we ran analysis on what would happen if we filled up the 22% and then the 25% bracket early in retirement. And that is where we're really starting to see the value, right? You'll see here on these Roth conversions, we're spending a little more in taxes early on, but now over time, you start to see the major impact. Here they are saving $101,000 in taxes over the course of their retirement. But leaving a legacy was also super important to them. And so they were able to leave $1.4 million more dollars to their kids because their kids would be inheriting money that had been growing tax-free for 25 years. And now they're getting it and they're also not going to have to pay taxes on it when they pull the money out. And Bob loved that. And Bob was thinking about this the right way because yes, tax planning can help you save money in retirement, but it can also continue to be a major savings by who you pass the money down to and how they can save money on taxes. So now the tax planning we could do over the next 7, 8 years could have a 30, 40, 50 year impact on your family. And another reason why this is so important is because the majority of the time I see people inherit money, it's when they're making the most money they've ever made, right? A lot of times it's in their late 50s, early 60s. They've worked their way up at a company and they're in their peak income years. A lot of times they are in the highest tax bracket, especially when you add the extra income from the required distributions they have to take out over 10 years. So this creates a huge headache for your kids, right? From a tax standpoint, but it also just means that the money you saved throughout your hardworking years and you left behind, yes, you're giving your kids a good chunk of it, but the IRS is taking more than they could have. If we just did some tax planning ahead of time, it could prevent the amount of money going to the IRS and increase the money going to your kids. So this is why I think tax planning can be so important. I think it's the most overlooked thing in a retirement plan. And if you're currently working with someone that's not helping you put together a tax strategy for retirement, please go below, click the link to take our quiz, check out our website, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll have more like this that will hopefully help you as you get prepared for retirement or continue to navigate through retirement. So thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day.